Hi everyone, whilst on the Bayer Diabetes website last week I noticed the introduction of a new meter, the Contour Next. I had a read of the specs and there wasn't much to read on the website. I had a look at the ordering page, found it was only about £12, so thought I'd order one just to see what it's like. And I'll just give you a quick look here alongside the Contour XT and a couple of other meters, just to see if it will suit you. So on opening the box, you've got the normal stuff that arrives in it, the meter itself, which is nice and black with a black screen. A small selection of lancets, the Bayer Microlit 2 lancet device, which I personally don't like myself, and a handful of paperwork and instructions. So onto the meter itself. Now, on opening the box and getting the meter out, the first thing that you notice is that it's quite light, and it's all black, but it feels and looks like a relatively cheap plastic construction. However, it does feel quite sturdy and solid. It takes the same CR2032 batteries as the Contour XT. Basically it's got the same buttons on the front, except they are rubber raised buttons. So if we just take a look at the XT there, up and down arrow, and the M button, which in this case is marked as OK. Physical dimensions are roughly the same, and it actually weighs roughly the same. I think it's slightly thinner front to back. But on the XT, the silver finish of the plastic work and the non-rubberized buttons give it a slightly more premium feel. But having said that, I still really like this meter. It feels quite nice in the hand, it's not too small. So let's take a look at turning it on. Now there's obviously two ways to turn on a meter like this. One is to press and hold the OK button. This brings up your setup menus, your logbooks and things like that. The other way is to insert a test strip into the test port and to do a test. So we'll take a quick look at the menus first. Okay, so if we press and hold the button, what you'll notice over the XT and any other is that is actually a backlit LCD display. It's currently showing white writing on a black background. Now the really cool thing is dependent on what colours you see best, you can go down to setup, and if we go down to display and select change, it's now changed the display to black on white. So for some of you, you might see that slightly better or think it looks better than the white on black. Personally, I prefer the white on black. It's slightly kinder on the eyes for nighttime testing. Okay, I've just set mine back to use white on black. So if we turn the meter back on, so the first thing that you see in the menu is Logbook. You've then got trends, setup, and that's your choices from the main menu. If we go into Logbook, it shows how many readings you've had. You can scroll down and you can view all your previous readings. As you can see, it's quite large on display, it's quite easy to read. You can add mil markers, which I'll show you in a second when we do a test. It also tells you whether you're above or below your target settings, and I'll show you targets shortly when we go into the settings. So you can scroll through there and see all your tests. Quite importantly, this meter holds 800 readings, which should be enough to hold roughly 3 months worth of tests, which should satisfy the DVLA in the UK. Should you want an HGV license and you need to present a meter to a consultant with enough readings on it. So that's your logbook. If I go back to the main menu, trends I'll show you shortly. After we've done a test, just so that you can see how trends work. In setup, you can set reminders after your tests. You've got date and time, whether you want the meter to have key clicks and beep when it turns on and off. I prefer mine to be off, only because it doesn't disturb my partner in the night if I decide to do a nighttime test. Auto log. Any of you that have a Contour USB will be aware of what that does. After a test, it asks you a question of whether it's a fasting, before meal, after meal, or no marker to it. And I have mine on because it's nice to know what's a before meal or an after meal test, and I'll show you that when we do a test in a second. Targets is quite handy. If we go in there, you can set targets. So your fasting targets in the morning, I'd be happy with anywhere between 3.9 and 7.2. So you can accept or change that. So that's that done. Your before meal target, same for me. And my after meal target, I'd be happy with anywhere from 3.9 to 10. So that is quite handy when you take a look in the trends, which we'll take a look at in a second. So that's the after meal, and then there's just a rundown of all the targets. So we're done in there. Language, okay, if you're not English speaking or that's not your primary language, you can change that. Not many meters have that option. Display changes it. We showed you that a minute ago, to white on black or black on white. Customer service, that is, you're only supposed to go in there. It gives some details on the meter, like how many tests you've run and things like that. Should only really go in there if Bayer staff ask you to do so. I do have the code to get in there, but this video is not the right place to display that. You can go back to the main menu. Trends, actually I'll do a test first and then we'll go in and take a look at trends. You can press and hold the power button to turn it off. There we go. Okay, it uses the same test strips as the Contour, and if I just grab it in a second. Same test strips as the Contour. Well, this is the Contour XT, so it uses the Contour Next test strips. Okay, it must say Next, not just Contour. And this is the Contour Next USB. Okay, uses the same test strips as that. So pop the test strip in, all the way. Screen pops up, quite clearly asking for a drop of blood there. So let's just extract one. There we go, nice drop of blood. The good thing with these test strips is if you don't get enough blood on the first time, it'll ask you. Now I'm going to choose a fasting test here because I haven't had any breakfast yet. I'm above my target for fasting, which is 7.5 my reading. It says see options here, so you can add markers to that if you like, and we'll take a quick look at that. So we can add a note. You can go before meal, after meal, sick, stressed. You can add activities, or you can go back. That's just to give you an idea of why you may have been high or different to what you were expecting, just so that you know. You can also add a reminder. So let's say I want to do another test in 2 hours. There you go. That'll now remind me in 2 hours to do another test. So it's as simple as that. On removing the test strip, it turns off like any other meter does. So now let's just go in and take a look at the trends. So trends, okay. So my fasting trends over the last 7 days is an average of 8.3, which is above target. And if I scroll down, I think it will show I've had 2 readings above, none in range, and 0 below target. If we go down again, there's my before meal. I've done 1 test, which is above target at 7.8. And again, you get the same thing there. The target is 3.9 to 7.2, or 7.8, so it's above. After meal, I've done 1 test so far for the 7 days. It doesn't say here I'm above target, so that's in range for my after meal. And if I go down there, 1 reading in range, 1 below. You can change the 7 days anywhere up to 90 days. And my overall average has been 8.6 from 7 readings. So that's a little bit of extra information that you don't get easily on some of the other meters. Quite handy if you are into those sorts of details. Now, if I just bring in the Contour XT again, okay, if I turn that on, obviously as you can see straight away, the two meters next to each other. The backlit display here is obviously easier to read than the LCD. I've not tested this in sunlight yet, but I have no reason to believe it'll be any more difficult than this. And this is obviously certainly more usable during the night with the backlight, which is the only thing that disappointed me about this meter. Now that brings me on to the last real point about this. As we take a further look around the machines, there's a port on the side here. It's a round headphone style port, which you can connect the meter to the computer using a cable which Bayer will supply free of charge for you. Only works on Windows, and it works with their Glucofax software, so that you can download your data onto the computer and print reports, store records for longer than the 800 test memory that the meter has. Now what interested me as we come around the side on this meter is it's got a micro USB port, which led me to think that maybe it will work on a Mac using a regular USB cable. And I'm glad to report that yes, it does. This is one of the only meters I know of, apart from the Contour USB, that is Mac compatible. And just to show you that, I'll power up the Mac now. Okay, so here's my MacBook Air. I have a standard micro USB cable, albeit in yellow. So we plug that into one of the USB ports in the side of the machine. We plug one end into the meter right there. The screen livens up. Down here in the bottom corner we've got the Glucofax Deluxe icon, because I've pre-installed that off the website. We start that up. Takes a few seconds. It's detecting the meter. Okay, it says the meter has been assigned to Richard Searley, which is me. What would you like to do? And I'm going to click download readings. I don't need to print them. And there's down here is the few tests that I've done and some of the summaries. If I go into the logbook, let's just find where we are today. There we are. Here is the reading that I've just literally done, and I'll zoom in a bit there for you. The reading you saw me do a minute ago, which was 7.5, and it was a fasting test, so that carries down. It was in the morning between 7 and 11. So as you can see, this is the Glucofax software. It's working perfectly with this on a Mac. So a lot of you might be happy about that. Okay, so there you have it. You've seen it on a Mac. It works well. It's got slightly raised buttons there, which, as I say, for some people might be easier to use. Backlit screen. It's a cheap meter. Like I say, I paid £12 for it from Bayer Direct. So you can't complain about the price tag. It's easy enough to get a replacement if you want a second meter or you've lost it. I expect your diabetic nurses will probably have stocks of these in the not too distant future. Do I think it's a good machine? Yes, at the moment it's probably my favourite. I've got quite a few meters. Okay, here are a few of the meters that I've used in just the last few months. The Aviva Expert, BG Star, the Aviva Nano, Contour USB, and I've got to say that whilst the Contour USB and the Contour Next are very similar, that I prefer the Contour Next. I like the fact that it connects to a Mac, because I predominantly use Mac. I hate having to start up a Windows machine to download the data. It's got 800 reports on it, which is good enough for the DVLA. So yes, this is my current favourite meter, and I will continue using it. And all of these are going to go into a cardboard box and be stored away somewhere until the next great meter comes out, and we'll see what that's going to be. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask below. Something else I've got here which some of you may be interested to know more about is the Pendeek electronic insulin pen. Now it shows you how many units you got in the pen, what your last injection was, and again you can connect that onto a computer and download all your readings. If you'd like a review of that, then let me know in the comments below and we'll try and do one of those for you. Thanks a lot.